welcome back to another episode of Whoa Baby. I am Liesl. I'm not Liesl. I am Brittany, and this is Liesl.
Hey guys.
Shoot, I don't know who I am. But welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself, or was that okay?
That was okay.
Okay, well, you guys, this day has been very interesting. But anyways, today we are going to talk about a rather serious subject, which is postpartum body and body image. We're just going to kind of jump right in. Normally we do our peaks and valleys, but I wanted to do something a little different. And I have a question for you.
Yeah.
During your postpartum journey, as it relates to your body, like your physical in your own skin, did you have a valley where you felt, maybe it was one moment, maybe it was consistent, where you felt not great? And then did you ever have a peak where you were like, wow, something clicked, where you felt yourself again?
I would say, I think I had like two kind of valleys.
Okay.
Like, I remember I had lost all the baby weight. I lost it pretty early on, but I remember doing a plank in the living room, and like my stomach was just hanging. And it was just loose skin, but I was just kind of like, oh, like, I don't like this. I just didn't like the feeling. I didn't like the feeling of loose skin. I was the same size standing up. And even still, it's like still a little loose, but you can't tell if I'm like standing up. And I don't even think you could tell if I'm sitting down. I can tell just because like,
your body.
Like it just kind of folds a little where it didn't before.
Yeah.
So that was just one thing. And it was just kind of like, I really don't like this. It was just maybe 1 or 2 days. But that was that moment. Currently, and even right when I stopped breastfeeding throughout the day, I just like my boobs are the same size, but they're not the same consistency.
The shape
is that weird? Like the shape is not the same.
Yeah.
They sit a little lower. They're just a little like the texture's different. They're if your boobs have changed, it's just everything's just like a little looser, a little stretchier. And it's just kind of like, that's still something where I'm just like, dang, like I still look decent. I still look like, I don't want to say my former self because it's still myself, but that's still like a recurring, like, dang, like I don't love this. And if I could change it, like this is like the one thing that I could change. I wish I could change.
You would bring him back up.
But like those are the two I guess valleys. As far as like a peak, like I got back to my birth weight. I did not get back to my birth weight.
6 pounds.
I got back to like my pre-baby body. I don't want to say pre because after you've had a baby, it's always
never a pre-baby body again.
But I got back to
but
like my same size in like 3 months. I dropped a lot of weight pretty quickly. So I could have like fit into my stuff, but like high-waisted jeans were uncomfortable. Yeah. But I was proud that I did lose and I did get back to my same size pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like didn't have the funds to buy a whole new closet. So it was more of like that. But I was happy that my body was just like, went right back to like muscle memory of being a dancer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that that's so key is muscle memory when they talk about, which we'll talk about this, I think, a little bit further in. Yeah. But like bounce back culture. I'm like, you kind of have to look like, what are you bouncing back to? Or what is that woman bouncing back to? Because, it can be very triggering to be like, you just had a baby, 2 months ago and you look like you didn't. Yeah. But then what were they before? You know what I mean? Because your muscle does have memory, like it really does. Like it would hurt like bad, but I could go outside and do like a rounded back handspring back tuck because my muscles remember it. But would my body allow me? I don't know. But it's like there is something about your muscles. They do.
Like I had I never relaxed my belly even like when I was pregnant just because I got yelled at so many times growing up, like tighten your core. So like if you look back on some of my pregnancy pictures, like I have abs in it. And that's just because I think unless something happens, I will always have abs.
It's the way you carry yourself. It's your genetic makeup. It's a lot of contributing factors, I'm sure. Definitely.
Yeah. So how about you? Did you have any peaks or valleys, I guess I should say?
Yeah, like I feel like my journey has been, I would say, relatively great. And I almost feel bad, but then I think about it and I'm like, no, don't feel bad. The disclaimer for so many things in motherhood goes back to losing our first baby, because the perspective shift that it did to me, I can't shake. Like, it is truly a lens that in some ways I hate that it's a lens that I have to look at everything through, but in some ways it's so beautiful because my perspective feels a little bit, it's a very intense and like a very strong contrast of a perspective, but I like it. So in that, I was never down on myself after having a baby. I didn't want to have a C-section just because the recovery is a little bit longer, obviously, depending, but it's just a different recovery. We'll say that. And so I was like, oh, I don't want a huge cut in my abdomen, and ended up being a C-section. But I was so grateful to have my baby that I think that potentially the things that I had heard from other women, and obviously generally with a C-section, you have to wait. I wouldn't say you have to wait longer because it's 6 weeks and 6 weeks, but there is something after that 6 weeks. Like, they cut through your abdominal wall. Yeah. So when it comes to like ab exercises, you have to really take a different approach. And I can never say it but diastasis recti. That I did have a separation of that, which is just like normal. But I do know that there are like some exercises to bring your abs together that were painful to my scar. And then it was like that navigation of, well, shoot, is this bad pain, like injury pain? Or is this just like you haven't done this in a long time and you got to push through it? So that was hard. But I say all that to say that I didn't have very many moments after pregnancy or after I delivered that I was looking in the mirror like, I'm really unhappy with my body, because the last time that I had a baby and had a postpartum body, I didn't have a baby. And that was such a struggle to be like, dang, I have weight on me still. I don't fit into my clothes. And there's no baby to feed. Like, I have milk coming in and my boobs are huge and I have no baby. So this time at least I was like, I have the fluff and I have all these things, but I have a baby. Yeah. So that high overrode, I think, a lot of what maybe the way I would have looked at myself. Yeah. So that's like a positive if you can look at it that way. But I remember in the weeks after, I was just so freaking shocked and in awe at how your body just immediately, you can feel it going to work for you. I didn't look the same. Like, I am almost 8 months postpartum now. And I think at 6 months is when I could like zip up my regular pants. And that wasn't like a goal, but also I didn't want to buy a new wardrobe either. And this is kind of like a little sidebar, but one thing I did that I think truly contributed to my self-esteem, I guess, is I bought, which some people are like, why did you wear jeans? I like to get dressed. It's just a personal preference. I totally understand staying in like comfies all day, but I actually bought, I think 8 weeks postpartum, a pair of jeans from Abercrombie that were on sale, so I didn't break the bank, but that were I like 3 or 4 sizes bigger than my normal size, because of course I'm not fitting in anything, but I wanted to wear wear jeans and tennis shoes and a t-shirt and feel put together. That was just important to me, but it also gave me patience to not, do that. So I think like as far as valley, I didn't really have a substantial valley because of the perspective I had. Yeah. But as far as like a peak, I don't remember the exact day, but there was one day where I almost feel like, and I think it's more hormonal than anything else, but I like literally woke up and I just felt like, wow, I feel like I'm in my own body again. Like, I'm not sharing it with anyone.
When did that happen for you?
I'm trying to remember exactly, because it's been a couple months. I feel like maybe closer to like 4 or 5 months. Okay. Postpartum. And it wasn't that I was like back in my old clothes or that it was nothing like that. I think it was just my hormones took months to balance. Yeah. And I feel like it was more of a hormone thing where like my hormones balanced and then I felt like okay in myself. And I felt motivated then to go and like get this body that I'm in now, moving. Not in the goal to go backwards, but to go forwards, to be the best person and to have the best body that could serve my family the best today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
like for me, I feel like it was, I think at 3 months I was back to like my pre-baby weight. So like visually, I felt like I looked like I'm like, okay, like this, I can work with this. I feel like I look like, and I wanted to own my body.
Did you feel this? Like, did you feel the way you look? Does that make sense? Like when you looked at yourself and you're like, oh, I look the same. Did you feel the same at that point?
I didn't feel like it was, I think maybe because I was still breastfeeding around the clock. Yeah. I don't feel like I felt like this is my body until I was almost done. At least until I was like done breastfeeding throughout the day. I think it was just like that was a frustrating part just for me. Like, love that I was able to do it. But for me, I'm just like, oh, if I could just have my body and wear my clothes and not have to like wonder if I could pick it up while we're out in public. Yeah. But I would say probably around 6 months is when I felt like, okay, like I've got this back. Like he's eating solids. So like I'm not breastfeeding as much. Yeah. I can wear my old bras. They don't fit the same. I should probably get some new ones. But I felt like I felt like I was me again. I looked like it prior, and size-wise I was back, but it wasn't until like maybe 6 months that I'm like, okay, like I feel confident, like we're good. I can work with this. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. Did you deal with like body image at all in pregnancy? Like when your body was changing, were you uncomfortable with any of the changes? I know physically it is uncomfortable to be pregnant, but as far as like aesthetics, like did you feel like, oh, I don't like the way my butt looks when I'm pregnant, or my arms, or you know what I mean? Or were you pretty good?
My face. Well, my face, like toward the end, not so much. I think because I was pregnant. Obviously, I was pregnant. But afterwards, that was the last place I lost the weight. Was like in my face, and I'm just like,
did you feel like it was more round?
It was very round, and I'm like, I'm just as puffy as Zach is. But in pregnancy, I was so hungry in my first trimester that I gained weight right away. Yeah. So even like going to my first appointment, I had already put on 5 pounds. And then like the next appointment, it was like, it was 10 pounds from the beginning. So I was just like, dang, like, I don't want to like explode.
You're like, I can't keep going at this rate. Yeah.
But then like, I'm 5'2", so there's only so much space. So like it really, my appetite tapered.
Yeah. Well, and that's a huge thing because, like, you really do also, like, have to look at when if you're looking at other people's postpartum bodies, because that's, like, how can we not? Everyone is on the internet. You're watching this on social media, you know? So it is, but I am about 5'8" and you are 5'2". So we are, like, when you put on 5 pounds, you probably notice it. I'm still, well, I'm getting closer, but I'm still about 10 pounds, I think, heavier than I was when I got pregnant the first time. But you can't tell. Like, my mom's like, really? But I hold weight differently, and I'm taller. And so you really do have to take body composition into account if you're going to compare yourself to someone else, which you never should. But it is hard when you see someone. Because she did. Like, I've seen pictures of my mom and Liesl. Like, afterwards, I was like, oh, my gosh, this is phenomenal the way the human body works, because you were holding him and it was like no one would believe that he came out of you. And he was a chunkster too. Like, oh my gosh.
And I know that, but I think it was also kind of like like people said like, oh, you won't bounce back, blah blah blah, and it was more of like a, for lack of a better word, screw you, I did bounce back. And but I'm thankful. Like I know like I wouldn't be happy if that didn't happen, and I didn't like bounce back right away, but my body just went back to what it was trying to get back to what it remembered. But I also, I'm just very aware. I think if you're on camera, or especially if you're a dancer, you're looking at yourself in a mirror all day. I danced in college from sun up to sundown, and I just stared at myself in a mirror all day. So you know that something is different, and you're just very aware. So like, I was just very aware of my body. I remember posting pictures at like what I thought I was huge at 6 weeks. And I look back now and I'm like, I see what you guys were all saying. I get it. I was crazy. I'm sorry. I'm apologizing.
But but it's that thing of like, you know how, like, you know your body better than anyone. And you know when you feel your best. And the moment something switches where you're like, oh, I don't feel quite my best. Because in pregnancy, I was like, this is, again, looking through.
And you carried your pregnancy well.
I had a great, like, the first pregnancy went to 27 weeks, and that was a rough pregnancy. Yeah. That was hard. But with Ashton, it was a dream pregnancy. So I never felt that bad because, of course, I was uncomfortable towards the end, and, like, your back starts to hurt and your belly gets big, and there's all the things. But as a whole, I enjoyed being pregnant with her. Like, based off of that pregnancy, I'm like, oh, I would do this a ton more because it was such an enjoyable pregnancy. I gained 55 pounds total. But, of course, when you have the baby, a lot of that comes out with fluid and the baby and everything else. But yeah, it's so interesting how like, well, I wonder, is there any association for you or maybe you, like, do you think there's any association between if you're unhappy with your body during pregnancy, do you think it makes it harder to deal with your body postpartum? Because at least when you're pregnant, everyone is still like, oh my gosh, you're pregnant. And so you might feel, ugh, but people are just, you're creating life. People are like, this is amazing. And they're celebrating you. Yeah. But then once the baby is out of you, not only maybe are you like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Then the focus isn't on, oh my gosh, you look so great. It's like, now I'm just here. And then what's so great is laying in the bassinet. You know what I mean? Do you think that there's any correlation of like a more challenging postpartum body image relationship?
I think so. I didn't ever really feel like gross while I was pregnant.
Yeah.
I knew for sure I didn't want to gain more than I needed to. And even at the end when I was trying to pack on the pounds so that way, hopefully Zachariah could grow, I still only gained maybe just over 30 pounds. So I probably would have gained under that. Yeah. It was just initially I just had gained 10 pounds and I'm like, I do not want to continue to add like 5 pounds for every month.
But you weren't trying to undereat. It was just like, I'm just doing what
I had a mad craving for pasta and bread and I ate it as often as I wanted to. But I had a friend that gained 90 pounds and a friend of a friend that gained 100. And I'm like, I'm only 5'2". Like, where am I going to put 100 pounds?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what am I going to do after that? Maybe it's just me, but I am just so physically aware of my appearance. And my husband is the greatest. He wouldn't care what happens with my body within reason. I mean, but
super supportive.
Yeah. Like I definitely put more pressure on myself to look a certain way for me.
Yeah.
Because I personally prayed so hard and did all the things to make sure I didn't get stretch marks and to make sure, like within reason, everything was good that I could control. But it's not like he would have cared. Like that's stretch marks are out of your control. But if I can help it, like, you'll do the things that like, if it's 100%. I don't think there's anything wrong with whether they work or not. I don't think there's anything wrong with like, let's, lotion up the belly and the thighs and the boobs and all the areas, I definitely think if you're unhappy with your body to start, you're not going to be happy with it during pregnancy unless something changes, and you're not going to be happy with it postpartum. Because there are things that I didn't love about my body, like before I got pregnant, like I wish my legs looked different. I wish I had hips. I thought maybe in pregnancy I would get hips. Didn't happen. Still don't have hips. Still shaped like a 12-year-old boy. That's fine.
But like I got boobs and a butt. You're exactly how God created you to be.
But that didn't change like in pregnancy, and it didn't change postpartum. These are still things that I'm working on.
Yeah.
So
how do you feel? Because one thing I've seen, well, let me put it this way actually, because on social media, I feel like, with the exception of a couple trolls, and they're always going to be out there, there aren't a whole lot of people who, when I see someone like postpartum with their body, if you look through the comments, there's one or two random people who don't have a profile photo and they're just trying to stir stuff up, who will say like, make some comment about the mama's body, right? And say something. But for the most part, I see people now celebrating the not bouncing back. But then if someone does bounce back,
it's like, oh, there's something
like
wrong.
A dancer or an athlete or something, it's like they get a lot of shame and a lot of hate and I just wonder, like, why do you think that is? Is it because it makes other people feel like, did they put that expectation on themselves to do that too? Or,
I think so. I mean, I definitely felt guilty for bouncing back right away when I know not everyone does.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I still sometimes like feel guilty like wearing a crop top and like, like there are just certain things that I feel guilty for and I shouldn't, but I just feel like you can't help it.
Well, I think it goes back to people feeling like triggered, right? And it's and a trigger says far more about you than it does about the other person. And I think that maybe some people are like, oh, I can't do that, so I don't want you to do that. And that's kind of the culture we live in right now, which is like they want everything. basically we're trying to make everything equal, and we don't live in that world. We're all of equal value. Not one human being is more valuable than another, but we're completely different. We have different giftings and talents.
Like, I'll never look like you.
And body composition, like, you probably aren't going to grow 6 inches. Never say never. God could do anything, but
hopefully not.
Ian's
my pants are cropped.
Ian probably is picturing you like overnight. She wakes up supermodel. But yeah, and I'm not gonna shrink. Like, I'm not gonna get smaller. Like,
what if you woke up 6 inches shorter?
That would be terrifying. You know, the funny thing is sometimes I'll get out of bed and I'll look at the floor and I'm like, I feel like I'm tall. I feel like the floor is further today, which is such a silly thought to have. But anyways, I just mean to say, like, I just know for myself, I don't judge anybody for feeling a certain way because it is incredibly vulnerable after you have a baby. The hormones, what you've just done, what your body has just gone through. I mean, I was quite irrational in moments. And I would sit there in my irrationality and be like, you're being so irrational. But I couldn't
get out of that.
I couldn't get out of it until my hormones shifted and then, things were much better. But it is interesting because I just think I just feel like we need to be a little bit better, especially as moms. If their journey affects us negatively, and there are people that I've had to, like, I'm so sorry, even friends where I'm like, I can't, whether it's the way they parent or the way they look after pregnancy or while they're pregnant, if you have to mute some people, unfollow, I would encourage you not to just let it stop there, like, out of sight, out of mind, it's fixed. But I would love to, like, I just wish that I could handle it a little better, but I can't always. So sometimes I just have to, like, remove them, but I don't want it to end there. What I try to do is reflect and be like, why does this bother me so much? Because I do think that that's the biggest thing is, like, I don't know that it's a body issue. When we deal with postpartum body image issues, I don't think it's so much a physical issue as it is, like, a heart issue and, like, a worth 100%. And a value issue, which is harder to tackle than the treadmill, to be honest, like it is.
Yeah. And there were things that I wanted to do, like, I wish I liked to work out. I wish I do, but I don't. I enjoy classes and I enjoy stuff like that. I enjoy dance, but, like, I'm also can't find an adult dance studio right now. Yeah. But I would love to do that, but not at the expense of, like, parenting and being a mom.
Totally.
So
totally.
Basically, I think bottom line, I feel like if there are issues that arise while you're pregnant or postpartum, it's probably not something that just came out of nowhere.
That's a good point.
It's probably something you've always dealt with or you dealt with at some point in your life that you buried and forgot about and then resurfaced. Or maybe it's, like me, something that has always just been kind of there and then it might be heightened at certain points.
I do think it's true whether it's relationally or with your physical body. I don't think babies fix anything. I think they just magnify what's already there. And I think that also goes for body. I think that's really, really true. Yeah, definitely. I think that this needs to be a conversation that we continue on and maybe break down some other things. Because, like, for example, you touched on stretch marks. I have stretch marks, not a ton, but I think that there is some, like, specific things. Like, for example, I had a C-section. So, maybe we can talk about, like, I had a little C-section shelf is what they call it, which is, you have this. Oh, yeah. Well, we'll do another one. There will be a part 2 to this postpartum body image thing where we're going to tackle some more specific things because some things just need a little bit more, more depth and some pictures because you probably don't know a lot about C-sections and like the skin after. So, and it's interesting. It's very interesting. We'll have show and tell next time. But yeah, read the quote. She read a quote earlier short. And oh my gosh, it was so great. And I'm like, this is amazing.
All right, ladies. I don't know if there are any gentlemen, but ladies, how you look is the least interesting thing about you. That's it.
I'd love to. I was going to grab the mic and mic drop. And then I was like, no. Also, this is not a normal microphone. This is like huge and it would just be weird if I picked it up. But anyways, I love that. I feel like we put too much importance on how we look when really, and don't you think that like your mindset and the way you carry yourself carries into the way you look? Like it really does. Like it's just, It's just interesting and incredible. Would you guys please leave in the comments just different postpartum body, what would you call it? Like things, topics. Whether it's topics, like whether subjects. It's stretch marks or things to do with a C-section, because she was vaginal, I was C-section. So we'll dive more into this in the future. But if you are struggling with your body image postpartum, if we can just be here to say, Mama, you did the craziest thing that a human body. You brought life into the world. Like, you are literally, like, guys can't do that. Good job. You did it. It's incredible. And we're proud of you. And give yourself grace and give yourself time. I had a couple people reach out and they're like, when did you start feeling yourself? I'm 8 weeks postpartum and I don't. That is so normal. That is so normal. I think sometimes it can take even like a year plus to be like, okay, I feel back comfortable in my skin. But if I can encourage you, I know that you don't have the energy to like do anything active. And I'm not saying like hit the gym and work out, but just, get moving again. Because those endorphins they'll just bring you back to life.
Yeah. Get outside for just a walk around the block.
It's so helpful.
Or in your front yard. Or if you don't have a front yard, just go for a walk in the parking lot. Target.
Do
a lap at Target.
There you go. All right, guys. We love you so much. We will see you next time. Like, comment, subscribe, all the things. Bye.